They called him crazy. He called them deaf. Imagine pouring your soul into music only to never hear it again. A composer who went against emperors, ripped doors off their hinges, and composed history's most powerful symphonies while completely deaf. You think you know Beethoven? Oh, just wait. Vienna, 1770. A child prodigy is born? Well, more like forced into one. Ludwig van Beethoven's father had one mission: make his son the next Mozart. The training? Brutal. Midnight piano drills, locked in a room, beaten if he didn't play perfectly. A childhood stolen, but a genius forged. By 13, he was already a court musician. By 21, he had moved to Vienna, the musical capital, where the Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart supposedly said, "This young man will make a great noise in the world." Well, he did, but not in the way Mozart expected. Beethoven had zero patience for aristocrats. While composers were expected to bow to their rich patrons, Ludwig, he stormed into palaces without knocking. Once, a prince scolded him for his disrespect. Beethoven's response? "Your Highness, you are who you are only by birth. I am who I am by myself." Another time, he was so furious at a servant that he ripped a door off its hinges. Yet, even emperors invited him to dinner. Why? Because when Beethoven touched the piano, the world listened. Then, the unthinkable. At 27, a ringing in his ears. By 30, Beethoven realized his worst nightmare. He was going deaf. For a musician, this was a death sentence. He wrote a letter, now famous, where he confessed he considered ending it all. But he didn't. Instead, he declared, "I will seize fate by the throat." If he couldn't hear the world, the world would hear him. And what followed? Some of the greatest music ever written. His Fifth Symphony, da-da-da-dum, the sound of fate knocking. His Moonlight Sonata, a piece so haunting, it feels like whispered sorrow. His Ninth Symphony, he never heard a single note of it. Yet it became the anthem of unity and joy worldwide. At the premiere, the audience went wild. But Beethoven had no idea. A musician had to turn him around so he could see the applause. Imagine that. Deaf, yet creating sound that shook the world. In his final years, Beethoven became even more rebellious. He composed music so complex, it baffled musicians for centuries. He would shout at people, scribble furiously, and drink gallons of wine. But his genius never faded. On his deathbed, lightning struck outside. His last words? "I shall hear in heaven." And here he did. Beethoven left us with music that transcends time. Emotions that still shake us centuries later. He wasn't just a composer. He was a warrior, a rebel, and a force of nature. Now tell me, which Beethoven piece sends shivers down your spine? Let's talk in the comments.